Hey y'all, welcome back to Roots and Refuge Farm. If you're new here, my name is Jess, and I'm really glad you're here. And if you're not new here, I'm also glad that you're here. I'm inside today. I have a very long to-do list, like lots of little tasks. And sometimes to-do lists like that can be hard for me because I sort of spin off in another direction. So I decided to turn the camera on and just get through my list a little bit with you guys. First thing though, I am going to make a pot of afternoon coffee. It is really chilly outside. I think not just South Carolina chilly, but like actually chilly for people who are not frosting their flowers. It's especially, you know, the beginning of fall and the onset of winter time and all that stuff when the weather starts turning cool again. What will be a comfortable temperature in 3 months right now feels quite cold. We've been sleeping with our bedroom window open and I've yet to kick the heat on, but I've just had, you know, the air conditioning off and the heat off and just been opening and closing windows. And I do have a little space heater that I have used, but it was 44 this morning when I woke up. That's 6 Celsius, so it's pretty chilly to have the window open. Thankfully I have a down blanket always underneath. While that comes to temperature, one of the things on my to-do list today, I made wine and it is ready to be bottled. I've got the bottles here, which I ordered. It's my first time ever making wine. We've made mead before, but I've never made wine. And when I was up at the Homesteaders of New England, these are the corks, and this is the corker. I just had to order this stuff because I've never done this before. When I was at Homesteaders of New England, there was a guy there named Rich, and he did a talk about winemaking. And I've wanted to, like, there's so many things that I've wanted to try, like homesteading skills. And I am the world's worst about analysis paralysis. It's why I so champion simplifying the garden and why I'm always like, hey guys, seeds want to grow, and like, just try it. You know, you'll get way more harvest if you try than if you don't. And I feel like I just need to apply that thinking to all the things I'm talking myself out of doing because I'm overcomplicating them in my mind. A friend of mine came over yesterday with some local friends at Homestead, and we were talking, and he's like really into making this stuff, and he knows all about it. Like, he knows all the technical stuff, and you know, and he was asking me all these questions, and I was like, I have no idea. Like, I literally put the fruit in the water with the sugar and the yeast, and I let it sit there until I liked the way it tasted. And you know, hopefully none of my jars explode. I'm following Rich's advice. He really did simplify it to the fact that I was like, I could try that. So this is it, my big bucket of wine. I'm probably gonna give a good deal of this one away because I'm just so proud of it. I want other people to experience it. My friend Hannah has muscadine vines, which muscadines and scupper, well, I guess technically hers are scuppernines, but these are wild grapes and they grow like crazy here. And every year she lets me come and pick, and I brought home a ton of wild grapes, and so that's what that's made out of. It's a couple different varieties, and it's very nice. What Rich said he does is he takes the homemade wine he does, and he actually cuts it in half with like bubbly water, and you know, bubbly's like, you know, sparkling water, whatever. And he said it makes it a more refreshing beverage that's like less alcohol content, because he's like, I'm not, you know, I'm just trying to make a beverage from what I'm growing. Well, I thought it was kind of cool, so decided to try it, use those muscadines. Well, all I've got cost-wise into making that, which I made 5 gallons, is just the sugar that I put into it. So I think I figured it out with the sugar that I bought. That 5 gallons cost me about $11 to make. And of course I had to buy supplies and all that stuff, but my hope is to be able to reuse all the supplies that I bought. And of course I was able to get the fruit for free, which that would have been a big input. If I can consistently produce a good product, I'm going to try it again a couple more times. I'll show you guys how to do it. I don't want to mislead anybody and like waste your money and time by showing you something that might not work consistently. So I had this rosemary hanging up to dry, and it's been crumbling on the floor. I needed to deal with it a few days ago, but today's the day. And I put it in this big bag, and as I was trying to pull the rosemary off of the stems this morning, it was getting everywhere. And I had a little light bulb moment seeing this sitting there, and put it in here, and I've just been stripping it off. Rosemary is perennial here. This one is a friend of mine gave me. I have a rosemary plant, but it's not huge. I would really love to establish like a big rosemary bush that'll be perennial that I can take large cuttings off of. But we've still been just kind of figuring out where everything is gonna be. We've changed plans on our farm, and I really just want to put it somewhere it can stay. Maybe next year. Maybe next year I'll put one in that can stay put. I have quite a few herbs out there, tender things. I've got oregano, and then all the basil. I still have a few really large basil plants that are looking really good, and I want to do a lot of cuttings from them and hang them up to dry. When it comes to drying herbs, it's so easy. You don't need anything special. Honestly, I don't ever put herbs in the dehydrator to dry, because even I have a good dehydrator. It's an Excalibur, and it doesn't get too hot, so on the lowest setting it's not too hot for herbs, but it's just kind of fiddly to put it in there. I have freeze dried some to kind of get more of a fresh effect. For the most part, I just grab a bunch of herbs, tie them up in a bundle. I usually, tie them onto one of my shelves here, just somewhere where it'll be out of the way until it's dry, and then take it and crumble it into a jar. The saddest part is that it's just so pretty hanging there. So I never really want to take it down, but you need to take it down or else it'll get cobwebs in it. All right. This is next on the to-do list. I've got to wind some yarn. But we're gonna put this rosemary in a jar. It's pretty good, look at that. My hands are gonna smell so good for the rest of the day. I was walking back in from outside because I went out and, kind of just shook the last bit. I had stripped all of the sticks off, and I came in to twist this and I accidentally I turned it upside down. Thankfully it wasn't fully open. That would have been so dumb if I just made all of the care and concern to strip that in this bag and then dump it out on the floor. Silly. Hey, check that out. That's perfect. Lovely dried rosemary. So all through the summer, I don't really use dried herbs. I'll go outside and get fresh herbs every day for anything that I'm cooking. As soon as the weather gets cold, even the stuff that still grows outside, so occasionally I'll go out and get like fresh rosemary for a recipe, but I always make sure I have plenty of dried herbs in the house. Some of which, it's because it's things that aren't growing when it's cold outside, like the basil. But a lot of it is just because I don't like going outside when it's cold. I don't like to be cold. So if I'm in the middle of cooking, I don't want to have to come back in with a chill to get my herb. So this goes on the shelf. Here we go. Add this to the collection. Some of these are homegrown. Some of them are purchased. I think these are chamomile flowers. I grew those. These are lavender flowers. This jar started with purchased ones, but I've since added a lot of homegrown ones to it. But then, of course, like the marshmallow root, shepherd's purse, like a lot of these things I purchased. All right, if your to-do list is long, may your afternoon coffee be strong. Blessings for life. So good. So I started this project. This is called a Swift. This thing. So show you. See it? It hooks onto the side of the table. And I've got yarn. So when you buy yarn, I mean, if you go into like a big box store, a lot of times or most of the time, it's already wound. But if you purchase it from like smaller makers, a lot of times you're getting it like this, which is called a hang. But this is essentially just right off of the wheel where it was spun, and you take it and you put it on this, and then you wind it into a ball. And they make little things that you can like twist, and then they even make like electric ones to wind it. I usually just wind it on my hands. It's a little more time consuming, but it's kind of one of those things that I don't really mind. I used to have a winder one, but I bought it. It wasn't a very nice one, and it broke. And instead of just continually breaking not so great ones, I just learned how to do it on my hands, and that's how I've done it, and it's fine. This is what I'm working on. Here's the hook. I'm making this shawl for a friend of mine. Isn't that beautiful? I'll put a link to the video. I don't know the guy's name. I've never followed any of his tutorials before, but I was looking for like the right pattern for this yarn, and I wanted something that wasn't completely solid because I knew I wanted to use this 100% wool. And my friend lives in a cold place, but I specifically wanted to make her a shawl because she was talking once about how she likes to work outside when it's hot outside, because she has a hard time going from the warm outdoors to the air conditioning, and her family likes the air conditioning on. And I was like, I so relate to that. I edit my videos in the summer. I edit most of my videos sitting on the front porch because I just, when I'm working outdoors, I don't like to come inside until I'm gonna stay there. The in and out bothers me. So I related. I wanted to make her a shawl that was nice and warm enough to use like when it was winter, but also just an extra layer whenever it was really just being used to ward off the air conditioning. So a while back I actually asked her advice about this because I was having a really hard time with some yarns, and I asked you guys what the trick was to winding balls of yarn from hanks and skeins. And it turns out that I had just gotten a batch of yarn, and I bought it like on Etsy from a, it's kind of like a de-stash situation. I'd found a deal, and as it often is when you find a deal, essentially they were all tangled. So it wasn't me. It wasn't a me problem. It was a problem with the yarn. Since then I've wound several balls of yarn from different places that all were pretty straightforward. So they put these little strings on this to keep it, you know, hopefully keep it from getting tangled. Here's the tag. And then this little string has the two ends tied to it. Okay, so that's the inside. So I want to tuck it in behind, and then I want to work from this end. I actually really love doing this. It makes me really excited. I don't think I've ever made a video of like winding yarn or really doing a whole lot. I know sometimes I'll sit and crochet and chat. I dreamed of homesteading for so long. Like, I wanted to live this simple life, and of course I've learned a lot about it, the whole like back to the land idea and living off the land, and it feels like it's an ever-growing revelation of how to live for me, you know. But when I get to do whole days of like bottling wine and drying herbs, I've got to roast some pumpkins, and I may break out the canner this evening. I'm not 100% sure yet, but winding yarn and crocheting, it just really makes my heart feel so happy. I really want y'all to see how this thing works. Okay, so literally I just pull this and this moves, and hopefully it's not making really loud. It does have a little bit of a creak to it. Hopefully it's not too bad right there by the microphone. So I'm just gonna get started. So the key here is to not make it too tight. So whenever I start, I like wind it around itself and my hand, so I can pull my hand out, because you don't want to pull your yarn really tight because it'll make it thinner. I did mess up my first few that I wound by hand, but once I got the hang of it, I've since very much enjoyed it. So I started watching a TV series, and I've just been watching it on like Amazon Video. It's an old TV series and I've mentioned it multiple times, but as the weather's been changing and I'm kind of like shifting over and doing lots more indoor work, focusing on homesteading things. During the off season of the garden, and like right now the goats are dry, like I don't have quite as much that's demanding outside. I'll still help Maya with chores in the morning, and we have been being more intentional, like working with our horses more. So there's still outside work, and there will be outside work over the winter, but I kind of take the extra time, especially that I have more dark time, so I can't work outside as the days get shorter, to learn new skills. I would say the last 2 winters I've focused heavily on like fiber arts. I do have a spinning wheel. I would really like to get better at that. I have learned it some, but it's not something that I make time for when the garden's going, because that takes so much of my time. But anyway, that little brain train, let's take it back to the beginning station. I've been revisiting a series that I've really thoroughly enjoyed in the past, and it's the whole it's a historic series. I believe it originated on BBC, but I'm on the Edwardian farms one right now. But there's Edwardian farms, Victorian farms, Tudor monastery farms, and wartime farm. And it just goes back historically, showing like different eras and how people were like growing food, and it's so fascinating. I find it so inspiring. And I every time I watch it, I think I've gone through this series maybe like twice before. This is the 3rd time. And I feel like I want to tell y'all about it every single time because I know there will be new people that haven't heard about it. I feel like modern homesteading is so beautiful. And I mean, you can watch people doing this, you know, there's lots of content now, lots of people sharing. It's become such a popular thing, but I love looking back in simpler times, how people grew their food and how people lived. Of course, I was always that kid who like loved the field trip where we went to the place where they did reenactments and stuff like that. I've always found like the old ways really fascinating. So it's not surprising that I still do. So I just twist this loosely, turn it occasionally, and in about, I don't know, I would say this probably takes, when I'm not talking, when I'm like consistently working, this probably takes about 15 or 20 minutes. A lot of times what I'll do is like when my kids are here and they're doing homework or something, or if I'm going to be sitting at the table with them, like Ezra will be working on something, he does a lot of art and stuff, I'll sit here with them and chat with them while I wind yarn. Alright, less talking, more work. There we have it. A lovely ball of yarn. When I wound that one the other day, William, my cat, was sitting right here watching, and it was like he was watching something absolutely mesmerizing. And afterwards I snapped a picture of him. I'll see if I can put it up here where you guys can see it. He's just peeking over the edge of the table looking at the ball of yarn. So yeah, it's a good sized ball of yarn. Took me about, you know, what, 16, 17 minutes or so to wind that. I was listening to the show I was telling you guys about while I was working on it. I love monotonous, mindless work. I didn't for a long time. For a long time I did not appreciate that. Maybe it's because now I can like listen to an audiobook or, you know, listen to something on a podcast, or like I'm listening to that show. So really, I guess I wouldn't love it as much if I did not have that at my disposal. But having something that occupies my hands while something else occupies my mind is just right up my alley. So this will be just the right size once I've got a little bit left of this other ball right here. I just wanted to wind that before the kids got home, but isn't that beautiful? I'm excited. This will be just the right size once I get this next ball on, and I can send it over to my friend. I've actually been beginning to work on Christmas gifts now that I've been thinking about it for about the last month and a half. I've been kind of chipping away, but I'm going to get really intentional about it now. Oi, my piddly list continues. I need to get some sourdough starter ready. I try to keep sourdough starter on the counter, and I inevitably never feed it enough, and it gets really funky. So I keep my jar in the fridge, and this has worked so well for me because it really does. It takes a little bit longer for it to like come back to being super active than if it were sitting on the counter, but not that much longer. And for the fact that, you know, I'm not consistently killing it and having to bring it back from the brink, it's worth the extra time. But I just feed what's in the fridge maybe like every week or two. It's very lax. I'm learning that I just have so much more success with everything I'm trying to do when I stop overcomplicating it. Does anybody else have that problem? I know it's not just me. So I pretty much just do equal parts sourdough starter, water, and flour-ish, more or less. Again, not overcomplicating it. And I'm doing this mid-afternoon, so if this were on the counter and I were feeding it, it would probably take like 4 hours or so for it to be good and bubbly. This will take a little bit longer because it's coming out of the fridge, but it should be nice and bubbly and where I want it by tonight, and I can mix some dough up to let it rise overnight and then bake it in the morning. I've also been doing these overnight pancakes. I'll do a video of it for the farmer's table, where you take your starter and all the ingredients and you mix it, cover it, and leave it on the counter overnight, and then you come out in the morning and make the pancakes with it. So easy, and they're really good. Alright, here we go. No, we are killing it on the to-do list. You're serving as my kitchen help, keeping me on track. Sometimes I tell people, I'm like, I don't need you to do anything. I need you to just come sit with me, and I'll stay on track if somebody's there. But I have had a lot of you tell me that my videos do that for you, and it's my joy. I'm glad to be of service. So I have this little pumpkin. Hilariously, I got out of my car in my driveway and I was walking around, and normally I walk behind the car, but I walked in front of the car, and of course I had the volunteer pumpkin plant that had grown out of my flower bed from a seed that I guess was in the compost or something like that and got carried over by a bird. And I also have tomatoes growing in my flower bed. I don't know that they're actually going to fruit before frost, but I'm rooting for them. Anyway, I went around the front of my car and I looked down, and this pumpkin is just laying there on the vine in my driveway. Didn't plant it, just grew on its own. And I looked at it and I was like, that's the perfect size pumpkin for dinner. So I just leaned over and picked it up and carried it to the house. Free food. Found it in the driveway. I'm just going to wash the dirt off of this and cut it up, put it in the oven. I'm thinking that what I'm going to do is do, like, for dinner, I've got some sausage thawed from our pigs, and it's already pretty good, well seasoned. The sausage is kind of a little spicy. Driveway pumpkin had a little bit of grass stuck to it. It's already pretty well seasoned, but I'm thinking I'm going to roast like diced pumpkin bites, chunks, and then cook the sausage with some herbs and like onions and stuff, and then mix it together, and then do like a something bright, like a lemony yogurt sauce to put over it. That's what I'm feeling. We'll see. I was looking up pumpkin recipes, and I saw one thing. It wasn't with sausage. It was just like a yogurt sauce on pumpkin, and they had like toasted some pine nuts. I don't think I have any pine nuts, but I do have walnuts, and those can be pretty interchangeable. So maybe I'll put some toasted nuts on it. I don't know. I'm feeling fallish. I'm embracing fall because it was 44 degrees when I woke up this morning when my window was open. Y'all just feel free to ignore the fact that I have not washed the lunch dishes. I made brunch today, so it wasn't really lunch. I did a sweet potato hash this morning. Again, another classic fall. I've shown that on Farmer's Table video also. I have to stand up. I need more leverage. Such a shame you can't smell this. It's lovely. so nice. So I scrape these insides out, and I actually like carrying these out to the chickens or the pigs because that's how I end up with more driveway pumpkins. And there's just something about volunteer plants that encourage the heck out of me. And it's also food that I don't have to work for, which is awesome. So I just realized the time, and I'm gonna have to go get my kids from school. And there's a very good chance that you guys are not gonna see the completion of this because, let's be real, when my kids get home, I'm gonna be paying attention to them and master multitasking. However, if this does turn out good, I will make a video of it. We're the guinea pigs, you guys are the beneficiaries. At least that's how it ends up going. Thank you guys for hanging out with me in my kitchen while I get through my piddly to-do list today. God bless you. Until next time.